Okay, welcome back, everybody. I've met actually many of the panelists before, but just because I know them doesn't mean you know them. So how about we just go down the road? I mean, you've been up on stage already. Introduce yourself in the light of how your day-to-day work contributes to DeFi, and we'll just start there.
Yeah, so at Vertalo, we help digitize and tokenize real-world assets, whether it's horses, like a client of ours is called My Racehorse, where you can buy $50 in that, to a house, to a patent. And at some point in time, you might not want to sell it, but you want to collateralize against it. Instead of it taking 4 weeks to, up to 2 months to go through a bank and traditional, financing, refinancing, with DeFi, with a smart contract based on our partners, you can literally do that within like minutes. It's already prearranged. And so if you're only taking like a loan to value ratio of say 10% and you have a $400,000 house and you're trying to take 20,000 out, that should be able to be done very quickly because that's a real blue chip asset, right? Versus say like a Bored Ape or an NFT, which is very volatile. Those are different circumstances. So our DeFi lending partners will make those decisions ahead of time, and the smart contract will already be put in place for that. So we help facilitate that.
So I'm Luke Kerner, and been in crypto 5.5 years. When I saw the crypto light on June 29th, 2017, what I saw was for the first time in history, we have a tool set to solve for the community instead of the man in the middle. And I thought that was going to be the biggest thing to happen in history. So I really focus on community. I started something called Crypto Mondays, which is the biggest crypto meetup in the world, active chapters in 46 cities, and now I'm building something called the Crypto Oracle Collective, which is a decentralized Web3 advisory service. And the problem that we're trying to solve was actually, I recognized at the DAO Planet event during ETH Denver was that there are a lot of great people who want to come and work in Web3. And there are a lot of great Web3 projects who want to hire them, but more often than not, they want to pay them in illiquid tokens or equity or a SAFE or a SAFT or whatever, and people have rent to pay and they get hungry sometimes, so people need liquid assets. And so the collective will take all of this illiquid stuff that we get paid in and will emit a liquid crypto oracle token. And so we started in July. We're at 130 Web3 experts. And 32 of them are getting paid by the collective. So, exciting times. And in terms of what we're doing to DeFi, we have a whole DeFi practice. And we have specialists. When you're at 130, and so we have our DeFi practice is led by the guy who I think is the smartest guy in DeFi.
Hey, I'm Eli Sakov of Tender Finance. Tender Finance is a DeFi protocol on Arbitrum. We're building delta hedged investment strategies. So yield generation that is easy to use, that still protects capital against adverse price movements, something that's very necessary in this market. What we've found is that while the market was during the bull market, everyone was risk on, and DeFi was very risk on. But everyone who was in DeFi has had their fingers burnt, myself included. So we view the next generation as a set of DeFi primitives that allow people to still make yield in trustless systems that still protect their assets. So I do DeFi full time, and me and my team are pretty deep in the space.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Eric Hill. I'm a lawyer. I've been all over the DAO space for a couple of years. Most people know me because I worked with Shapeshift. I've been the head of legal at Lido, and now I'm the head of research and advocacy at Pole Maintenance Labs, which advocates for liquid staking technologies. And I'm just glad to be here.
Thanks, guys. So I have a burning question, and I lose sleep every night thinking about this, and this is the perfect panel to ask this. So with the recent meltdown of centralization, right, I think we've finally seen enough consumer upset, a lack of trust now in these large companies that we've always been told are the good guys in the room. We're all very deep into DeFi and pushing our own agendas. but I want to understand where your minds are at for, has enough damage been done to get the consumer on board with DeFi? Because we've always seen it's a bit more difficult to get into than a centralized version of crypto. We all believe that DeFi is the way forward, but has the market moved far enough that we can start building and getting these net new consumers into DeFi immediately and see the growth that we think there should be in the community? Corey?
So I'm a own your keys, own your crypto sort of guy, but I think most of the world, still when they have billions of dollars at stake, especially institutions otherwise, we have a client that has $4.5 billion in single-family residential property that wants to take a loan against it using DeFi. The problem is they're not going to want to put that necessarily in their own wallet. They might use something like Fireblocks, which is a decentralized, MPC wallet sort of situation. But the reality is most people aren't trusting in themselves with their entire wealth. And I'm not sure that will ever change, or maybe over the future, over time, maybe the new generations, but it'll be generational change. So I think in general, what we need to do is make sure that the depository aspect is very much separated from the exchange piece. Like a Fireblocks for your deposits, and the exchange like FTX or Binance or Coinbase for the actual exchanging of currencies. With that separation of powers, they won't be commingling that and leveraging that and hedging it like they did recently. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'd say that I'm all for education. I think education is great, but we're not going to educate ourselves to the mass market. We're not going to get there from a collapse of trust. The way that we're going to get there is build a product that people want and can use, and we're not there yet. I don't know whether that's tomorrow, a week, a month. You've probably got a better idea than me. I'd be interested in why you're on Arbitrum, but I'm pretty sure it's coming, and I think it's going to be incredibly exciting when it does.
In my perspective, DeFi protocols will be at a lower level than most people will have comfort working with. Most people still struggle with wallets, and just the mechanics of a DeFi protocol are above most people who are still getting into crypto. So I view the future as being some kind of hybrid model where we will still see some custodians of people's funds, some investment managers, but in a system that is much more open and transparent than what we have today, that allows major institutions to steal people's money.
So I agree with Lou that we need better tools. That's going to be the gateway to mass use. With the start-off question is, the meltdown of centralization is like DeFi's moment, right? It's easy to look and say, well, the regulators make companies in their own image. This is what happens. DeFi is resistant to this. But it doesn't really matter, because as long as the narrative is crypto caused this collapse, not the company, which we don't control, it could be a moot point, right? We'll just be pointing out that we invented the Betamax 25 years ago and nobody wants to adopt it, right? So the tools will make a big difference, I think, a really big difference. If you just make it easy, just super easy, like people just want to know that their funds or whatever their value is just there, and it's just very easy to point and shoot, then it becomes, we solve the biggest obstacle. Now, there's a lot of people working on that. There's a lot of neat things out there. And like Lou said, it could be 6 months, could be 3 years. I don't know when it's coming. It will come. We're ingenious. Human beings are ingenious. We solve problems, but who knows?
No, I agree. I think it is a tooling issue, and the test I always use is, can I get my parents to use it, right? I use MetaMask every day, and different browser extension wallets. But my father asked me, how do I buy your token? And I had to explain to him, you have to wire money, and then you have to do the purchase, and then you have to put it in a wallet. And he's like, well, I have a wallet. I'm like, well, not that kind of wallet, Dad. But you're right. It's too many hops. I think we'll eventually get that ground level technology, and I'm hoping that's what a lot of the people are building out there.
It's actually funny because I look at something, I go, I wonder if that's easy enough for my son to use.
Okay, so I do have one more question. something that I've struggled with my project, and as we build a community of node operators for our exchange, is how do we best leverage the DAO from a governance perspective, right? To be able to democratically vote on the legal proceedings when we find bad actors, the distribution of funds, and really who should vote, right? Or what kind of leverage should you have in the voting structure? So what I want to hear about is how you guys are or are not, and perhaps a reason for it, using DAOs within your DeFi projects.
We're talking right now and working with a few DAOs, DeFi protocols like Trust Token, for example. And just kind of give an idea, they literally, their DAO decides which projects they want to, or which assets they want to loan against, what that rate is. And so they go through due diligence, and because this is uncollateralized loans on top of that. So that's just one example. And there are others we're looking at that are more collateralized. Again, the DAO part of it is just the decision making on which companies, which assets that we're okay with actually collateralizing, at what that level is it 50%, 80%, and then what the interest rate is on that. Now, a lot of us out here are degens, and so we like this 30, 40% interest rate stuff, and that works okay with Uniswap, whatever, on maybe some of these speculative NFTs. But with real world assets like a house, they're looking at how can I get a 4% reasonable interest rate on this? And unfortunately, degens are like, hey, I want the 30, 40% speculative stuff versus the 4%. So I think eventually we'll come back into, as we see with the collapse, like these high interest rates, whether it's Celsius or BlockFi, you're not going to get these 20, 30% interest rates that's sustainable. They don't work. They're going to break down. But you can get something to 10% or less, depending upon that's real wealth. That's real collateralization. And so I think in the future, we'll be able to help facilitate this with the liquidity pools, because one of the biggest challenges in DeFi is the liquidity to be able to actually facilitate the actual loans happening on the buyer side, on the market making side. So we'll see what happens there.
I think one of the more interesting things about kind of any new technology, any new thing, it's if you look at what happened when television was first introduced, the very first TV shows were guys sitting at a desk with a microphone on it going, hey, now we're on television, right? They were just doing radio on television because that is all that they knew. I actually want to ask people in the audience, I've never done this before, how many people in the audience are excited the day of voting that they get to go and vote? Anybody? Of course not. Yes, that's what I expected. Nobody likes to vote. People don't like to vote. It's a pain in the neck. Voting is stupid. Voting is stupid. A DAO should have a function, and a DAO should, like a water doesn't vote where it goes down, right? A river doesn't vote. It just goes to the place that it should go, the best place. I don't know how we get from here to there, but my guess is the future of DAOs is not voting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Imagine that you are sitting on the board of directors of your bank right now. What would you even do? Perhaps we'll see some kind of delegated model, some kind of financial republic where we elect people to vote on our financial institutions. That would be a really cool thing I would love to build. One of the things we found in this last market is that there is incredible demand for a tool that just says 10% APY, press this button. We have validated that the market wants this thing, and I predict that in the next cycle we will figure out how to build one in a somewhat responsible way. One of the big missing pieces in the field is a risk rating system for DeFi. Like in bonds, we have A, B, C, and we have a bond rating system. So doing due diligence on a bond is much easier. We'll probably also see something like that come out for DeFi, because in this last wave, it was pretty much impossible for most consumers who were not developers or understanding the mechanics of DEXs. It was not even possible to do like basic risk analytics for most of these protocols.
I think that just picking up on something Corey said, which is, Celsius, BlockFi, the centralized, it doesn't work when you're still paying executives, right? There's a long pole in the tent there, which as long as you have, it's okay to say that it's an exploitive model without being a communist. Like everybody can get paid what they're worth, everybody can be rewarded, but part of the failure of that is the extractive model at the top. right? It's very clear that if you hand out, 10 or 15 or 20 million down below, that in some cases the failures won't even occur. So that's one thing. The second part, going to your question, Bud, I think is in DeFi protocols in particular, you need to have a distributed or compartmentalized or firewalled system. So I work with something called Weaver Protocol. It's like a decentralized tokenized real estate. And so the DAO itself only approves like that this is the property that's interesting. It does nothing else. Then a separate DAO spools up that crowdfunds and then loans the money to a different DAO, right? And so this is like compartmentalizing everything so the two shall never meet, and that the blame, if you will, is very compartmentalized. I think it's kind of a novel, I won't say it's not unique, but it's certainly the direction things are going in. It should. The idea that you could just have like a single DAO, like that just votes on absolutely everything all the time, suffers from a lot of drawbacks. And we're already seeing that design, and you compartmentalize over here and you say, well, this group over here can use like a reverse voting method. This group over here could use a staking voting method. So if you're wrong, you lose your stake and it's incentivized. And that can all be within the context of a broad DAO, but this one size fits all, it was great for starts. I think the next generation here is a much more complex arrangement.
No, thank you for that. The point, Lou, that you made is that the DAO should eventually strive to not be just the vote. That one really struck me because when people think of DAOs right now, they think of democracy and voting, right? And your take of trying to evolve that to utility is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of pie in the sky, but I think it's a nice way to think about it. And I mean, what I think is, to me, the most ludicrous thing is a lot of DAOs actually reward people for voting and pay people to vote, which, not quite sure. I mean, it's unfathomable to me that good things come of that.
Steve, how are we doing on time? Do I have time for one quick?
Yeah, go ahead. We're 5 minutes to wrap this panel up.
Perfect. Let's end on a light one. I mean, DAOs and voting in DeFi is very heavy in light of everything that's happening right now. I'm sure we're going to have tons of conversations about it this week. I'm going to ask a softball question. I look out into the exhibitor hall and I see NFT pay, NFTs, NFT this, and NFT that. So as a final remark, I want to hear two things. One is, what's your favorite NFT project and why? And how do the audience get a hold of you?
Which NFT project is my favorite? I like the NFT projects that actually are using for what I call anti-counterfeit. So they literally are tying to dollar bills, to diamonds, to Gucci purses, and really tracking the manufacturer of that good, to the ownership of that good, to did Babe Ruth really swing that bat? And you can record all that metadata and attach it, via hash on chain. And what you do is you're able to scan it and go, yes, this purse really is a real purse. And so I think the anti-counterfeit technology to me is going to be the biggest change in the space. I mean, yes, we have artwork and we have NFTs and we have media and music and we have Ticketmaster and all that. But I think anti-counterfeit technology is really going to help a lot with transparency. So if I go to a pawn shop, all I need to do is scan it and go, yes, this is a real, a real asset that came from that artist and so forth.
So my favorite project is Stoic. It's because it's the only one I think I'm still up on. And I'm Lou Kerner, LOUKERNER everywhere, @gmail.com.
Uniswap V3 concentrated liquidity tokens all the way. And I'm Eli Sakov again.
I'm a big fan of identity or membership tokens and how they can be used. So let's say there's an expensive financial product that costs $4,000 a year to subscribe to, but I have this NFT. That product is 50% off next year, 25% off the year after, right? That just holding this identity can incur, it's like having a discount coupon everywhere you go. I think that's a really interesting, it's very simple, It's not complex. It's not like tokenized syndication of racehorses, which is also fascinating.
It is.
But that's kind of where I'm at on that.
How do we get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me is rotorless. So just at rotorless, whether it's Telegram, Hotmail, Discord.
Thanks, guys. All of your answers were way better than mine. My favorite NFT project has been the Fidenzas by Tyler Hobbs. I just think that the use of AI in producing a set was really interesting. But you guys actually had real world examples, which now I feel a bit ashamed for. But thanks for joining the panel. I love the insights, and Eli, we got to talk more about that rug pull that you were a part of, affected by, not a part of. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. So we had